Hi, it's Chris Titley here as part of the Sub 11 Uncovered series. I'm joined by Rhett Dallwitz, co-founder and CEO of Listing Loop Group. Rhett, thanks so much for being part of this series and being part of the Sub 11 group.
No problems at all, Chris. Thank you very much for having me.
Rhett, let's talk about a Listing Loop Group. Going back to the early days, how the business was established, what was the idea behind it, and what problem were you trying to solve?
Yeah, no, great question. So, look, I've always been in prop tech now for nearly 18 years. So, had a couple of exits, been prop marketplaces and then some other areas. But there was a common problem that we kept finding when it came to property marketplaces or the property transaction. And there was multiple sort of, areas that we could see there was an opportunity to improve on. And I guess the first one was the cost of advertising. So fun fact, we're the most expensive market in the world per capita to advertise property online here in Australia.
Wow.
There are only 3 markets worldwide where the vendor, the seller, pays for the advertising via the real estate agent to the providers, which is Australia, New Zealand and Sweden. Where every other market in the world, it's all paid out of agent commission.
Right.
In Australia, there's a big problem where, and this is a stat that goes back a few years ago now, 40% of online inquiries would go unanswered in a real estate marketplace, which is crazy. It's getting better with the help of AI and auto responses, and technology is definitely improving it. I actually spoke with someone yesterday and they said the stat was 23% now. So it's definitely on the way down, which is great to see. And but I guess when it came to Listing Loop, I guess one of the things we really wanted to do was we wanted to build a platform that was not what I call a me three. So, we've got a couple of really great players out there, realestate.com and Domain, which are very well known in their markets for doing what they do well. And these are big companies with, big valuations and a lot of cash flow through them. So for me to come in and compete and say,
And a lot of media presence as well.
What they do and do it cheaper. It just wasn't what I was interested in. So when it came to Listing Loop, we really wanted to flip how things were done. And I guess the first part of the concept was let properties find you. So instead of having to go and spend hours and hours of searching, let properties find you. So that was the first idea that we had that we started mapping out. But it wasn't just enough to have as a unique selling proposition. We need to have multiple unique selling propositions in our business. And, after many, many hours and months of planning around kitchen tables, as a lot of startups sort of commence, we really found some opportunity to do something different. And I guess my 15-second pitch of what Listing Loop is an end-to-end property marketplace focusing on pre-market and off-market properties, helping remove the friction out of the buy, finance and sell process by having all of the required services under one roof. And I'll sort of just talk about the pre-market, off-market. Why do we focus on those? And what are pre-market, off-market properties? A pre-market property is a property that has just been listed for sale with an agent. So there might be a 90 or 120-day authority where the agent's got an exclusive authority to sell the property. And they're preparing the property for market, which can take up to 20 days to do. That's your signboards, your copywriting, your photography, floor plans, etc. That's valuable time an agent can sell or create a bit of competition in getting buyers interested in the property before they take it on market. And a good agent will always put it out to their own database, but their database will only have X amount of people in there and so forth. And sometimes they might go back over 10, 15 years. So what we've done is, because of the way we've built our platform, we're an extension of their database. They can actually, all behind login, they can actually go and promote that property to a waiting database of buyers who have filled out their profiles, filled out their requirements, and that property gets sent out under a match alert structure. So that's sort of the pre-market. And why do agents do it? Because then when they go on market, if they do end up going on market, it might only be 2 days on market. That 2 days might bring their average days on market. So when they're going for their next appraisal, John Smith down the road, said my average days are 43. You can go in as the agent and say, well, mine are 24 days. Yep. Because they're running a pre-market.
And they get paid faster and they can do more transactions, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. And then an off-market property, yes, it is for sale. The word off-market is nothing that Listing Loop's created. I get asked if it's off-market, is it real? Isn't it on-market?
I like the one at the moment. It's the safe note, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is the safe note safe? It's like, it's an interesting.
Exactly. we didn't create the term off market, but it's always existed. And an off market sale campaign is typically done by high net worth. It could be a celebrity. It could be someone going through personal matters such as a divorce, or someone that just can't afford the expensive advertising and want to try an off market strategy. It's combined, a pre-market off market represents over 20% of transactions per annum. So what we're saying is around 20% of transactions don't make it to the major portals. And if you look at it, if you're someone looking to buy property, would you ring every single agent and ask them, hey, what are your on-market properties you've got? Can you send them to me? You wouldn't. You go to a site like realestate.com or Domain, and it's all aggregated data. But for pre-market off-market, the consumers, the buyers would have to ring up the agent and say, what have you got coming up? Have you got listed anything on the quiet? So what we've done is we've aggregated all those listings for this huge amount of market into one central location, integrated into all the agent CRMs. But we've done it by respecting the way a seller wants to present their property to market. So, i.e., they don't want it found in Google search engines. They might want to try at one price point and then see, and that price point won't then be cached in Google. It gives them a lot of flexibility on how they want to take their property to market. And that's what we're really fulfilling in that unique selling proposition around listings. So people come to us not instead of, but in addition to real estate and Domain. So we're not competing head on with those two big players. And then the other part of our sort of the 15-second pitch that I went on was about removing the friction out of the buy, finance and sell. And that's a big part. If you think about the stress a vendor or a buyer would go through that process, it's, if you're selling a property, you've just sold, you had your eye on a property you're about to buy, but you needed to wait till you sold. And then all of a sudden, during that transaction, that property you're going to buy that you've had your heart set on has sold to someone else. Now you're potentially going to be homeless. How do we remove that friction out of that side of the transaction? And then how do we improve the experience for buyers about giving them a seamless experience so they're not getting that stress all the way through all the different service providers? So that's sort of where we look at our business as a point of difference in the market.
A couple of questions come to mind on those thoughts. One is firstly the revenue model of the group and how you tick along. And secondly, which you can probably sort of answer within that, the answer is the emergence of buyers agents here in Australia, and the amount of volume that they're seeing, and whether that's a trend which you think will be on the up. And are you, quote unquote, like a digital virtual buyers agent?
Yeah, no, great question. So I guess within our group, I'll talk about our brands because that'll help answer some of those questions. So within our group, we have Listing Loop as the property marketplace. The way I look at that is that's the innovation stack. That's the sticky glue to getting someone in to being able to help them through their buyer journey. From there, over the years, we've built out multiple different buyer services, which is Lending Loop, which is a brokering arm, Conveyancing Loop, which is our conveyancing business. We've got Moving Loop, utility connections and comparison, Loop Pay, short-term funding access to your deposit, etc. Wow. And then in August last year, we acquired a business called Hello House. So it's the only non-Loop brand at the moment. And that's well, under the license regulations, it's a buyer's agency, but we don't like to think of ourselves as a buyer agency. We like to think of ourselves as more professional expert help. Because in the buyer agent industry, only 3% of transactions in Australia use a buyer agent or buyer advocate. And that is because it's expensive and people don't know about it, or they go, I'd like to have a go doing it myself. And what we're really doing with our model on the buyer agent side or on the professional buying help is I guess you could say we're disrupting a little bit, but I guess what we're doing is we're making it more accessible to the everyday buyer. And
democratizing
what we've done is we've created a digital model. We've created flat fee structures. So instead of paying $20,000, $30,000 to have someone help you buy a house, you can do it at a flat fee model. And we've built a model that's completely scalable without having to require boots on the ground in every state, because that's where it gets brought down. So that's sort of, what we've done on the buyer's agent side of the business. But coming back to your question around the revenue model, in the classified market, there's $1.5 billion of classified revenue in Australia. And a big chunk of that is already taken up from realestate.com and Domain. And if you look at all the new real estate portals coming into the market, they're all focusing on the seller, and the classified revenue. Where what we've done as a business, we've said, okay, we need to have listings because you need to have supply and demand. You need to have, we
Yep.
call our
Liquidity.
buyers members.
Yep.
Yep. So we need to create engagement. We need to have unique content for that engagement, have a point of difference in market, which we do. So we have to continuously have a focus on our listing in our business. But where we actually focus our revenue and our monetization in our business, and we've been doing it for many, many years, is actually on the $363 billion market size of the transactional market. So
yes, the actual transaction, the lending, and all the peripheral money that comes with transacting property, broadly speaking.
Yeah, correct. And what we're starting to see, and we're seeing this, especially in the US, they're probably a little bit ahead of the curve. And here in Australia, we're starting to see more prop tech start to wake up and go, wow, there's a big opportunity marrying fintech and prop tech together. So what we did many, many years ago was we knew we wanted to, you need to have a lending product because lending is nearly a necessity in a transaction for a property buyer. So we launched a lending business and we focused more on, we just did an MVP brokering business and then focused on the big thing, which is the biggest problem, the customer acquisition cost. If we get that right, we know we can then invest and scale our lending business. Whereas I see a lot of fintechs, and I know you would too, Chris, and they build beautiful products out in the market and they'll spend $10, $15 million doing it. And then they go to launch and then they go, oh crap. Customer acquisition cost is 3 times higher than I realized.
Yep.
Oh, I don't have enough funding for that, or I can't really scale and I have to go back to the market. If the market's tough for funding, it slows down the whole growth and the strategy of the company. We did it the other way around, and we've got, and I'm really pleased to sort of say, and I won't say the core number because it is sensitive data, but we've got one of the lowest customer acquisition costs for our finance business in the market. And it's because of how we've built the ecosystem of when someone comes in to look at a property and what they're looking at, their intent. So we get a lot of data, and what we do is we dissect that data to then put the right product and service in front of them at the right time. And we do that through not only just digital capabilities, but we also have our own fully employed onshore we call them customer experience managers. So we try to connect over the phone with every single person joining our platform to welcome and make sure their profiles are set up so they don't miss out, but also to see if we can assist with their whole buying journey and with any of those services. And some use one service, some use all of them. I actually just about an hour ago this morning had someone, an employee, just give me some feedback that they had a client that came through and they've taken every single service we've offered. And they said
that's listing, conveyancing, funding,
a whole lot.
Sorry, lending, listing, conveyancing, moving.
Correct. Yep. Sorry, the only one they didn't take was
the new one
because they're not a seller. They're a first home buyer. Yep. But they loved it because they didn't know how to go through the process, and we've held their hand all the way through it, giving them, putting them in touch with the right providers so they don't have to even think about what's next. We've been there. And that's where I come back to our real common goal in our business. I don't want to just offer good service. I want to offer exceptional service to the buyers, because buyers are also sellers, and it feeds into the other part of our business. I really want to shake things up a little bit in the industry and do it differently by having a very big focus on that buyer journey and that buyer experience.
Having gone through it a couple of times in my life, and hopefully not too many more, the sort of like, you don't know what you don't know until you know, and you go, oh, what's that? And I think education must be a big thing in and around what to do to sell your house, what to do to buy a house, what the fees are, what stamp duty is, state by state, all these different things that you're going, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. How are you doing that process in terms of educating people to say, actually, here's a bit of not just a checklist, but this is what you should be doing?
Yeah, so we have a lot of digital communication that goes out in between different stages. So one thing I'm really proud, like we've got a beautiful, front end visual site that consumers engage with, but we spent nearly last 18 months building out back end flows to our systems to help streamline the consumer journey. Because one of the other things, when you've got a lot of different brands and moving pieces in your business, with different products and services, it can become clunky. So we've streamlined them all in to one central system, and we take them on that journey with the client. And it's really just made it a hell of a lot easier, really,
Mm.
for
Yep.
everyone. We have better visualization, and that allows us to then launch drip campaigns, educational campaigns. So if someone's in our finance sector, in our lending loop business, and we know that they're a first home buyer, we're not going to give them information around depreciation schedules unless they're a rent investor, right?
Yep.
Because it's not relevant. We're going to give them information about government grants, and vice versa with an upgrader, downgrader, new build, or an investor. We
Mm.
put the right content, and then we've created booklets for conveyancing because it's all different legislation on state by state that they need to know about, what you need to consider, flood zones for insurance. Got to think
Yep.
about those
Yep.
things, and then we back it up with humans, to as a consultative approach.
And that data that you get, which is people browsing, people touch points, etc. I mean, how have you gone about, really refining that to enhance that customer experience? And when did you sort of go, oh, actually, there's a rich data set here. We need to extract it because we believe, enhanced customer service will actually lift our overall brand.
Absolutely. So it's been something that we don't stop. It's an
Yep.
ongoing, because as soon as you think you've got it right, the market changes, and you need to change how you're looking at the data and how you're presenting your business to them and your offer. Um, if someone we collect a lot, so we know who they are, what they're doing, where they're looking to buy. We collect a lot of consumer data, but we don't do it in an intrusive way. We do it in a subtle way to be able to go and not jam a product down their
Mm.
throat. No one wants that
Yep.
heavy sales process. What we do is, if you're engaging with maybe the finance calculator, we know that you're doing it, and then we might go, hey, do you need some assistance? It might be shoot off an auto, EDM, communication to that individual that's personalizing it.
Yep.
Or it might be that, if someone's going through the journey and we just know that they're just gone to unconditional approval or pre-approval with their finance, if we have systems in place that if the broker hasn't already offered conveyancing to them, because conveyancing, again, like finance, is a necessity,
Yep.
that we will actually have our customer experience team do a check-in and say, have you considered conveyancing? By the way, we've got a couple of good offers by being a Listing Loop member.
Yep.
So it comes back to how we've also positioned the data in CRM systems from a follow-up perspective, that if it's not being actioned digitally or through, the consultant on one of our business units, it's being done through our customer experience team as well.
And Rhett, you've put together Listing Loop Group from initially Listing Loop, and you've got these peripheral, the company set up now, and you're streamlining it and you're getting this data. What does the business look like, and what do you feel like you want to achieve in the near term? Let's call it 12 months or so.
Yeah, no, great question. So our biggest goal, company-wide goal that we're sort of focusing on right now, which I know a lot of companies are doing it, but we are as well, and we're well on our way to achieving it, is cash flow break even, cash flow positive.
Yep.
That's what we're doing. And marketplaces are hard to build and expensive to build, because you can't really commercialize until you get the supply and demand right. And therefore, that's just pure investment. You've got to have members, you've got to have users, you've got to have engagement, but you've got to have listings, and you've got to keep them all connected. So our goal, we've gone through all those hard yards, and we're definitely in the commercialization phase at the moment. But our goal is within 12 months to get to cash flow, and we might even do it before the end of the year, the way we're heading, cash flow break even. But to do that, we've got two primary focuses in our company that I preach at the moment, because our fixed costs aren't going anywhere, and that is conversion and refinement. So from a IT and marketing team, it's all about refinement. It might be changing the color of the key line of a button, moving a button from left to right, whatever it may be to help with conversion. Or it might be from a marketing, changing the subject line or sending out the digital communication instead of 10 a.m., sending it out at 4 p.m. because it's getting a better uptick. So it's just about that. And then from a sales perspective, making sure we're talking to them, we're educating them enough, the customer feels comfortable to get there. And we've been doing a lot of focus this financial year on it, and it's really starting to pay dividends on those just two core focuses. Our revenue is up just under 200% this
Wow.
financial year,
Okay.
which I'm
Yep.
blown away with.
Yep.
Our property listings are up 103%. Our registered buyers are up over 30%. Our finance settlements are up over 20%. We've had a 3x on other product services, 3x in enhancement on other products and services. But it all comes back to having those two core focuses, but it's also done by a team. I never wanted to say it's the product;
Mm.
it's the team. They're bloody magnificent. We've got an amazing team who are passionate and are all have the same vision of our common goal of just completely being Australia's number one destination for home buyers and sellers. That's what we want. That's our end goal, is just to be making sure that you get with from a service perspective, you're getting that superior service from coming to Listing Loop.
Rhett, on that note, I think we'll leave it there, and a very strong finish in terms of your articulation of the vision and also the success of your team and the passion I can hear in your voice in regards to how hard they work and being part of that. Those two core little things that you've been speaking about in regards to upticking the levels of customer service. Congratulations, by the way, on what you've achieved over the course of the Listing Loop group. I remember speaking to you, a couple of years ago, and you maybe had one marketplace, and now you've got this big group going and this big sort of machine. And the opportunity at large is certainly just the beginning. So congratulations, and I wish you all the best.
No, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you.